This is Tracee Dunblazier with the COVR Chatcast. We are the Coalition of Visionary Resources, the trade organization for the mind, body, spirit marketplace. And our membership is here to serve you. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Shelley Kaehr. She's a Ph.D., and she is a world-renowned, multi-award-winning author of multiple metaphysical books. Her tagline is she is the past life lady. And for over 20 years, Shelley Kaehr, Ph.D., has worked with thousands of people around the world, helping them achieve greater peace and happiness in their lives. A renowned past life regressionist, her award-winning books have been translated into multiple languages around the world. Shelley believes we all have the power to rewrite our stories and create the life of our dreams. Welcome, Shelley.
Tracee, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So tell me more about your past life regression work. I do that as well. What brought you into it?
It was really brought to me as a child when my mother went to a luncheon where the guest speaker was the lady who was featured in the book, The Search for Bridie Murphy, which if viewers and listeners are familiar with that, it's a real famous book that came out in the 60s about a woman who had bad allergies and went to a regressionist. And she started relaying her life in Ireland. So I don't know what normal people were doing at the family table, Tracee, but we were talking with my mother about the book that she bought about past lives. And I said, wow, this is amazing. And then in my 20s, I had a friend who was killed suddenly in an accident. And I began having visionary encounters with his spirit. And he went away. He came back many years later, and somebody said, well, maybe you should have a past life regression. I did. And I realized that we had known each other in many lifetimes. And the process was so healing for me that I realized I wanted to do this for others.
Wonderful. Yeah, there's nothing like one of the most important things about connecting with your past lives is it really helps you to access things from not just your perspective. You recognize yourself as a much deeper, broader human being because you see you're capable of having multiple perspectives. So when you work with people, tell me a little bit about your business first. Let's start there in terms of how do you consider yourself a regressionist, author? What else do you do? Is there anything tagged onto that?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I've been in this business for so long. I started writing books not only about past life regressions, but about energy healing and gem and mineral healing, which I know you are very wonderful. You have an amazing book out about that. Yes. So in the earlier parts of my career, I do consider myself to be internally an artist. And so my books are really my artwork. And so, how artists have to kind of follow where the clientele is. And so in the earlier part of my career, the gem and mineral healing stuff really became very popular. And so I was doing regressions. Regressions was always what I really wanted to do. But the public was more interested, let's say, in my gem and mineral healing books. And so I used to sell gemstones. I had a big rock and mineral shop. So I did that for a while. And then I began channeling some different things and started doing energy healing. I ended up writing another book called Edgar Cayce's Egyptian Energy Healing, which is a healing modality based on the Cayce reading. So sometimes I'm teaching energy healing, and then other times I'm doing past life regressions. And so I think that's one of the things over the years, and I know you know what I'm talking about because you've been doing your thing for a while, that when you have different modalities and you're just open to what is, you just kind of see what are people needing at this time. And so I feel like I've been able to kind of go with the flows of different time periods that we've been in, because as we know, the frequencies are shifting so dramatically. You just never know where people are at. And then I began my relationship with Llewellyn. I wrote my first book on past lives that came out in 2003 that just had a 20th anniversary. And
that's the life stream, right?
Yes.
Hold on one second. Let me show that. That is here.
Yes, this is the 20th anniversary edition, which makes me feel like a relic. So this book was endorsed by Raymond and Brian. And then, so I was doing regressions kind of, under the radar, let's say, for many years. And then I got this relationship with Llewellyn where I started finally talking about some of the many things that I've been doing in regression. And so I've been
Right.
doing regressions, on and off for years. And so it's kind of a work in progress that continues. And I just kind of
Yes.
go with the flow and just see where it carries me. And I think that's one of the things that's made it continue to be interesting for me over the years.
Exactly. Um, what did you start at? Did you start out in the metaphysical industry? Is that where you've always worked, or did you do other work prior to this?
Yeah, I had a real job
Yeah.
once a long time ago. That's what's interesting. I worked for Tom Hopkins, who wrote the book called How to Master the Art of Selling, and Jim
Okay.
Rohn, who was he was the mentor to Anthony Robbins' Unlimited Power. And so
Right.
we used to produce their one-day seminars, and I traveled around like a
Wow.
gypsy around the United States producing seminars and selling sales training to people in car
Wow.
dealers and insurance companies and stuff like that. So I think that's where I got my love of babbling and,
Yes.
persuading. And some of my friends from that business, Tom Hopkins development director, she loves all of this. And so,
Mhm.
Tom has since seen my work and,
Wow.
he hasn't completely thrown it out with the bathwater. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Sometimes you feel a little revealed. They always knew that there was something a little underneath whatever, whoever they knew Shelley Kaehr to be. And then it's like, oh, that's it.
Yes,
She's
absolutely.
interested in metaphysical things. Well, this is wonderful. So, your book just won the Coalition of Visionary Resources Visionary Awards Book of the Year. You don't happen to have a copy with you to show
Oh,
the
I
cover?
don't have it. I'd have to get up. But
I didn't remind you to do
my
that.
Book of the Year award here.
Yes. Te-
Thank you so much for
tell,
supporting my work. I'm
yes. Tell
grateful.
tell us the name of that title.
This is it's Journeys Through the Akashic Records.
Yes.
And I'm just so grateful to Coalition of Visionary Resources for everything that you all do and just for noticing this book because in it is all of the guided journeys that I have developed for my clientele over the course of 20 years. I want to gift
Yeah.
this to readers as a self-help tool because I believe that we all have the answers to these big questions if we can
Absolutely.
simply access that. And so I'm so grateful
Yeah.
to everybody who noticed that one of all the ones just means the most to me. And I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Absolutely. I find that energy. There's a line of energy to every obstacle that we experience. We have experienced it at some other point before. Whether it's been in this parallel life or a past life or even a future life. There are multiple dimensions at which we experience things, and just allowing your mind to access new vibrations, uh, new perspective is what it's all about.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's what, when I had my regression and the things that I see with clients over the years is just, like you said, just having a different perspective. You've got the problem, but you're looking at it from a different vantage point through a new lens. Sometimes it just completely gets up and goes and you get lessons and
Right.
learning. And even if things are difficult, you say, wow, you know what? These things are happening for a reason. It's for soul growth.
Right. And it becomes much more fun. I think that we have this illusion that we need to be serious about our problems. And we don't. And in fact, I don't recommend it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Those are wise words. Yes. We have to have fun. Can't we just have fun? You and I always have a good time. I mean, I
We
think
definitely
we have
do.
to laugh. We have to just have joy. And even, you have to make fun of yourself a little bit. I do.
You really do. So what is your favorite thing that you do?
Oh my gosh. I think guided journeys, just taking people through guided journeys, particularly now. I still do private work, but I really like doing classes and workshops and things where I've got a big group and I can guide
Hmm.
them through different things. That's a lot of
Hmm.
fun. And teaching people how to get the answers for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, What about animals? Do you think animals have past lives?
Yes. I had another book called Past Lives with Pets, and that one was a silver winner a few years ago. So this was a book that I kind of wrote by accident because clients would come in for sessions. And normally you don't come in because, your dog is being a jerk. I mean,
Right. Right.
so they would find that they're going in there for whatever challenge that they're attempting to resolve. And they go, oh my gosh, look, there's little Fifi. Or, they would find their cats, their dogs, their horses, and things like that. And that became a really beautiful part of their journey to
Right.
identify, as you know, the unconditional love that we have with our animals. They're here to teach us to
Yes.
love. They're here to teach us how to care for others. And
Yes.
it's a beautiful relationship. And so it's a very warm and fuzzy feeling that we can have. And there's also guided journeys, though, to help people who are struggling with the loss of a pet, which is the
Right.
unfortunate thing that many of us have dealt with. And so that one was a lot of fun to put together as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know if you've heard in the news just in the last 2 or 3 days, some man from Australia, he was sailing from Mexico and he got marooned out in the center of the ocean for over 3 months, got stranded out there. His catamaran broke down. And evidently he had a dog with him. And evidently the story is that literally just before he was on his way to get on his boat when this dog started to follow him. So the dog that was with him joined him in Mexico, wouldn't let him go. And so he decided to take it with him on the trip. And so,
Wow.
and it was that dog. He pretty much saying, I don't know what I would have done without this dog. This dog has much more courage than I do.
Wow. I
So,
saw a bit of that, and I saw that he was with his dog, but I didn't
yes,
realize the dog just got on the that's what we're talking about, right? There's a soul
yes,
connection there.
yes. And
How
it's
would
like,
he have survived? He would have been so lonely.
exactly. Like that's what I was saying. I was like, wow, that's something right there. It
That
makes
is amazing. Yes,
it makes you
absolutely.
know that there is a bigger picture all the time. So tell
Definitely.
us a little more about your Akashic Records book.
So in the Akashic Records book, I'm showing people how to access a state of relaxation and walk through a threshold into their own sacred space that I choose to call the waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, it's kind of like, when you go to see a professional, you walk in the front door of the office and then you have to wait in the waiting room. And so off of the waiting room, then readers can meet with their loving spirit guides or guardian angels or beings of light. And we
Mm-hmm.
establish this presence, no matter what you call it, whether it's an angel, a guide, or a being, as
Right.
a loving presence who knows you. They love you. Speaking of unconditional love, they love you unconditionally, no matter what you've done. They know you
Right.
better than you know yourself. And so then they become the companion that takes you through different doorways to answer different questions that you might have, such as, you know, what is my soul purpose? Who are my soul mates? There's
Right.
forgiveness journeys, soul retrievals, just all kinds of things that
Right.
are accessible off of the waiting room, including past life regression. Hello, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Okay, well, that's one. I love that. I do a similar thing. It's not the waiting room, but it's a meeting your guardian before you enter into the larger realm, the more complicated realm. Um, I had a question. Boop. Um, oh, how do you like to author? Like when you write, do you have a particular ritual that you do in order to write, or what happens for you? What is your process?
Oh, wow, that is so interesting. Um, there's an aspect of myself. I'm an Aries, by the way, in case anyone wanted to
Okay.
know what's going on here. And by the grace of God, I am April 19th, so I'm on the cusp of Taurus. So there's part
Okay.
of me that just struggles against sitting down in the chair. Like it's
Right.
sitting in there, it just needs to come out. So I have to work with myself. I used to always like just go to the gym and swim until I'm practically exhausted and then go sit in the chair. Now, as I'm getting older, though, I don't really fight against that as much. So I have I have to have my coffee in the morning. I just have, and I'm just kind of contemplating. I'll sit in meditation in this chair that I have called the chair of trance, where I've
Mhm.
done a lot of my journey work for clients and others over the years, do a little meditation. And then I've set up a space. And, similarly
It's
to
separate?
the way, yeah, like, how you have an altar or something. So I have
Yeah.
my little statues there. And I
Mhm.
just, and then by the time I've done these things, it's pretty simple, but then I'm ready to turn on the computer and get down to business.
Mhm. And are you a morning writer? Do you start in the morning and then, or are you a nighttime, mid-afternoon?
I am now a very early morning writer.
Mhm.
Um, I always used to like to write during holidays, like if everybody was on Christmas vacation or
Yeah.
something, then I would write because there's a cleaner energy in the unified field when
Yes.
everybody else is resting than I want to be working. And
Yeah.
so I found, even though I'm really naturally a born night owl, but I've turned myself into a morning person because it's so quiet then that
Yeah.
usually between like 6 and 9 you can get a lot done.
Yes. Yeah. I find that as well. So, and how long do you write per session?
I would love to say, there's some writers, because I read a lot of like memoirs, like Stephen King's on writing and stuff like that, where
Right.
they put 1,000 words a day, and that's how it is. I'm just not really
Yeah.
like that. Like I may not do it every day.
Right.
Once I get into it, if I'm really into it, I might sit there though for 10 hours and hardly even get up. So I think that's one of the reasons why there's a part of me that hesitates to sit down, because if I'm in the
Yeah.
flow, I don't want to break the flow because then I have to start over
Right.
again or something. So
Right. That's one of the things I think that people who want to write or write that book and they've not done that, but they want to, and this illusion of writer's block. Do you believe in writer's block?
um I mean, I know why we would think it's a block, but I think if it's a block, that means, you need to go to the swimming pool or go do some yoga or something, or
Right.
go sit under a tree, try to get your mind off of it, because your subconscious mind, as you know, is still working on this stuff no matter
Absolutely.
what you're doing. But just letting it go, if you're just like cringing about it, you've got to get away from that.
Right.
Do you do mornings, or how do you do it? And do you sit down at once, or how do you do it? I'm just curious.
You and I are very similar. My writing schedule when I'm actually working on a project is usually between 2 and 3 a.m. I'll get up. My body will naturally wake me up, and I will write to well, I walk the dogs between 7 and 8 every morning, so I'll usually write till then, and sometimes I'll be able to get back to it, and sometimes not. So I usually get a good anywhere from 3 to 6 hours in, and the interesting thing, I can't write in the afternoon. Like I'm done. Like after afternoon, my brain goes boop and it's just turned off. Um, but there are some times like this year I worked on some different stones that were very, I want to use the word complicated, but they were so intricate with so many new layers of energy and information for me that I was really struggling. It was the first crystal in the book, but I had done all the other ones, but I still hadn't written about it. So I actually had to go to Palm Springs. I went to the mineral springs in Palm Springs and set myself up there, set up my room as the entire altar, brought the crystal, and finally on the last day it was time to write about it, and I sat with it and something said, go to sleep. So I'm like, I need a nap. So I went and took a nap, and it was in that nap that the channel came, and then I got up and wrote it. So definitely some topics are different than others. The first couple of books I found, sometimes topics are so emotional or connected to, like you were talking about, the collective field that is so emotional and triggering. A lot of times, my writing comes to me in dreams, and stories come to me in dreams. And I've had all of many 95% of my past life recall has been in dreams. Others have been in visions, like actually having past life, present moment recall. But so during my when I was doing the karmic book, that I would every night I would go to sleep, I would dream whatever the chapter was about. I'd dream that story, and then that story organized the how-to and the anecdotes for the rest of the chapter. But sometimes getting through that story, like it would take me a week, 2, 3 sometimes, because it was some and deep and powerfully emotional information that comes through. Do you feel triggered when you write? Like do you find yourself crying a lot when you write?
About your setting up in Palm Springs, I have set up in other places, but I haven't done that in a long time. That is a good way to do it. I like it. You know, I haven't really been that triggered until I wrote my forthcoming book, which is called The Goddess Discovered. It's going to be out in December. It is
Yeah.
a world goddess encyclopedia with over 500 deities in it.
Holy mackerel.
My students wanted me to
Wow.
write this. This is truly something I did for others. And
Right.
different times during that process, I just said, OMG, what have I gotten myself into? I'm out of my mind. But I never said anything to anybody at Llewellyn about it. And I'm
Right.
really good friends with my publicist, Kat. And so one day I just went, oh my gosh. She goes, Shelley, I didn't know you were having any difficulty with that. And so it was very challenging. Let's just put it that way. And
Yeah.
what's interesting that I'm actually what I hope readers will get out of it is that
Right.
each pantheon, you know, you go to the Celts and now we're in the Norse and now we're in the Egyptians and then we're going to go into living religions in part 2. So each pantheon has a totally different feeling and a totally different energy, and it brings up different things. And I
Yes.
think, you know, a lot of my writing is about past life regression. And then the other book that won a gold with the coalition is the Heal Your Ancestors to Heal Your Life book, which is about my
Yeah.
genealogical regression. So my goddess book is really about teaching people about world religions. I'm going to give you an overview of each one of these ancient religions and living religions. And then we look at the deities, and I'm inviting people to say, hey, how do I feel here? You know, am I receiving an ancestral influence, or am I receiving a past life influence? Because, you know, there's so much judgment in this world that is unnecessary.
Right.
All of our ancestors worship these deities. That's the bottom line. And we
Right.
did this in our past lives. So I'm hoping it brings unity and joy to people. And I'm hoping
Absolutely.
it'll be a reference book. And when I was struggling with it, the struggling younger self said that the future me would be thanking me for doing this. So we'll see what happens. But
See how that works
at the
out.
end of it, I kind of fell in love with the project because, again, for the reasons I've just described. But let's just say, yes, I pitched a few hissy fits.
Yes. Well,
But I did anyway.
you know, those are monumental projects. The reference books, that's no joke. I mean, I know how hard it was to put together 200 pages, you know, for 12 crystals. You know, there is so much energy and information and focus and perspective, and that perspective isn't always your own. You know what I mean? I mean, you are the conduit, and you've got to be broad enough in your own worldview to be acknowledging and accepting of all of these things. You know, right, wrong, or indifferent. We are all human, and I think that, you know, people who don't write maybe don't know that. You know, that the authors that they read and that they like are expanding themselves to bring this information through in a I want to say neutral way. I don't know if that's the right word, but a, you know, non judged way.
I think you're really hitting the nail on the head, like with crystal books, right? I mean, they are minerals, they are chemical elements in the periodic table. I mean, you have to know kind of what that is and then bring the spirit on top of that. The thing about the goddess book, I think, that gave me the angst is that I want to make sure that I'm honoring everyone's religious beliefs and stating up front, look, I'm coming at this very humbly. I don't believe that anyone who isn't a part of a faith can truly understand the depths of it. So I want to just approach the work in a very humble manner It's
Yes.
very honoring, and I'm just so thankful. It's got a lot of good reviews so far from people in
That's amazing.
different actual cultures whose opinions I, respect and people I admire. And so I'm grateful for that because that's really where the angst comes from. I want to make sure everyone's happy with it.
Absolutely. No, I totally get that. Well, that is a wonderful, wonderful project. And thank you so much for bringing it to life. And it has been such a pleasure to be able to sit with you for a few minutes here on the Cover Chatcast. Is there how can people reach you? Do you do sessions with people?
Yes. Yes, they can come to pastlifelady.com and
Wonderful.
everything's there. My book link, my sessions link. I've got a YouTube channel. So yeah.
Good. And the name of your podcast, it's fantastic. I was a guest and we had so much fun together. What's the name of your podcast?
Yes, it's Healing Arts. And it was the People's Choice for 2023.
Yes.
So, and I loved having you on there. And I just love the time that we've spent together.
Absolutely. It's really been a pleasure. And thank you so much, Shelley. Shelley A. Kaehr, Ph.D., Dr. Shelley, past life lady. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us here on the Cover Chatcast. And we will see you again next month. Thank you.
Thank you so much.